Welcome everybody to the show of the Everything Horror Podcast with me, Podolsky. And tonight we got a very interesting person. Now, I'm only saying it like that because what is ironic is that this film that we're going to be talking about was filmed in my home state, and he's technically like my next door neighbor of a state. Something like that. That's next door neighbors. We'll just put it as that. And it's really interesting to see that my home state, just to throw it out there real quick, is that we used to be a cool horror loving state and do film festivals for the horror independent. And then all of a sudden it seemed to have died down. But in this case, it seems the light of the horror genre has once again made its way into my home state, which is Vermont. And without further ado, this is Christopher Wells. Hi, Christopher.
Hey, how are you?
I am good. And thank you for reaching out and talking about your film that I can somewhat talk about because I haven't technically seen it yet because it's on the film festival route. And, it's still awesome, though, nonetheless.
Yeah.
And I still remember seeing that article about your film being posted on 7 Days, and I think somebody else might have written a article or something. But
we got a lot of local press, which was great. So.
Oh yeah, anytime local press gets involved, it's always good for the smaller people like you and I to get their name out there and to know what is being made or whatnot.
Yep. Totally.
But your movie is called The Lurin, which which came out or premiered for the first. I'm assuming the first film festival on the 26th of January of this year. 2019.
Yeah. The Lurin premiered in Kansas City at Panic Fest, and we had a test screening in New Jersey, and then from there we then basically did another edit, because when you're editing a film and then when you show it to a whole bunch of people, you kind of see your film in a very different way. And so after we did a test screening in Jersey, we were accepted at Panic Fest in Kansas City. That was an amazing screening because we then recut the film and we made the film, and we got a great response in Kansas City. Kansas City is a really great horror town, and that was a lot of fun. And now we're flying out to Detroit and for the Motor City Nightmares Film Festival. So I've never been there. I've heard good things, so I'm excited to show the film in Motor City. So we'll see how that goes.
Well, congratulations on that, and it must be some type of relief that the film is done and finally out there for sure. And I mean, it can be scary once you get that film out there too, because you don't know how the general audiences will really respond to it at first. But usually, some people I think just judge a book by a cover, but in this case, judge a movie by its cover a little bit too soon without maybe watching it twice or three times, if not more, but definitely more than once, because once you see it once, it's kind of like, yeah, okay. But then when you really watch it again, you can sit down and actually appreciate the movie more, because maybe you might have missed something that you didn't catch on the first go around and stuff like that, which in your case has something similar in your film, which we will get into with like hidden messages, which I find very interesting.
I think it's important to. It's also that one of the reasons why it's so cool to be in a festival is because everyone has to shut the fuck up and watch the movie. Where when you watch it on your computer or wherever, you could be distracted. People are, watching porn on their cell phone while they're watching your movie on their computer or whatever, And so it's kind of nice to have your film on a big screen where everyone, the lights go dark, everyone's cell phones is off, and everyone has to pay attention. Where nowadays, where there's all these like different platforms, it's just very easy for people to be distracted. So I think there's like a lot of really interesting, great things and advancements for filmmakers now, but there's obviously more platforms, but there's nothing beats seeing your film in a dark theater. It just, it allows, especially when you make a film like mine where there are hidden messages, where you kind of need people to pay attention, because the last thing I wanted to do was spoon feed my audience. And I wanted there to be subtleties. And even with my short films, I tend to kind of do things that are a little bit more subtle than, and you have to kind of pay attention to it. And so it's going to the festival. We play on April 26th. I'm looking forward to it because it gives me an opportunity to watch it while people are watching the film. And so it's different. It's different than watching it on the computer, I guess.
Well, it's also just good because, I don't understand what the hell the point of is going to a movie just to be on your fucking phone throughout the entire time. And it's just like, so what the hell did you buy your ticket for then if you're not even paying attention? So I find technology nowadays to be a real pain in the ass, especially cell phones. I mean, I can't really say too much because, there's times where I just got to kind of peek because the stupid notification came out or whatever. And it's just like, I need to turn it off. And you try to turn it off and sometimes the setting doesn't work or something stupid. And it's just like, So then now I just put my phone on goddamn silent and then just throw it sometimes, and then I forget about it.
I do the same thing. I mean, I was actually a little funny, quick little story. I was in the movie theater watching I don't even know what movie it was, and this girl was on her phone recording the movie, and then Snapchatting it and posting it on Facebook, and she's 3 rows in front of me, and I'm like, what the fuck? Who does this? So I got up and I said, excuse me, can you put your phone away? And she she put her phone away. But then as I sat down, she started to think about it. She goes, oh, who's that asshole that told me to put my phone away? So then she started doing it again. And I'm like, what the, I just want to see a goddamn movie. I don't understand why people are so rude. And I guess it's because people are so afraid to reprimand some people. Like when I was a kid, you didn't do shit. You were afraid that you might get smacked. Now, God forbid, you hurt someone's feelings. They're gonna Facebook about it, and then and then you're gonna be ostracized because you can't hurt people's feelings anymore. So it's just like this world of entitlement. So yeah, it's just kind of I have a special hate for people that are on their phones in a movie theater. I want to make a horror movie about going after those people because it's so annoying.
And I think you should do that as a little short just to get the idea out. And I think it would work perfect. Maybe some hands come out of the phone and bash the face against the phone. I don't know. Maybe teleport them into the movie and be like, pay attention now. Yeah, exactly. And to touch on what you were saying about as well as you kind of hate it too. And it's just I kind of like you, I was brought up to be, if you weren't a good boy, you weren't going to sit down for a week. Let's put it that way. And nowadays, you can't really slap anybody, well, even a kid or whatever. So then they don't learn how to actually do the right thing because they never were smacked. Because now it's a child abuse thing. It's apparently so. What the hell? No wonder why our generation sucks.
Yeah, it's kind of scary. I think it just the sense of entitlement, and if you're on your phone in the theater, it's bright, and your eye goes to that, and I want to watch the movie, and I just don't. People know that, so just put your fucking phone away. So to tie it back into what the question was, I know we kind of went a little bit off, but I love the fact that we're going to be in a theater, especially with my film where there are hidden messages. Some are maybe a little bit more obvious than others in terms of, quote, hidden messages. So some are messages that people won't even know, even if they dissected the movie a million years. It's maybe a hidden message for me. But, those things will, I'm sure, leak out somehow with, quote, the marketing. For instance, the paintings in the film are all of my dad's work. He paints, he's a Vermonter, and he paints these landscapes of Vermont, and he, they're really beautiful work, and so I wanted to use it in the film. And so there's little things like that where I kind of get into some nice little personal hidden messages that once the film is, quote, out there, then I'll let those little secrets out. These little Easter eggs, I guess, if you want to call it.
Oh yeah, Easter eggs are always fun too. And then
Yep.
it depends on how many people can catch it on too. Like there is one hidden message that I was reading earlier where I was just like, I'm like, this seems interesting, and maybe I'll just say this one and that's it. But because it's kind of really cool, because I don't think I really would have thought of it either, especially the way you wrote it up and how it's presented in the film The Lure, in which you were talking about a specific scene where the little boy is trying to play at a playground with the red, and all of a sudden, or color, I mean, and then all of a sudden, like, had this red balloon, and then the nanny comes over and, like, grabs it and lets it go in the air, and then, you were saying, what is it? The boy was saying, like, what time is it? What time is it? What time is it?
Yep.
What time is it?
Yeah.
For like 3 times, and then the nanny writes, or not writes, says back 213, 213, 213, and I'm like, okay. But then as I was reading, and then you're like, well, if you add it all up, what did it come to? And it's just like, oh. So yes, listeners, I'm not going to exactly tell you what it comes out to, but we're going to make you think about it for a second. So very interesting.
Yeah, and that's I didn't want to make it. It's very scary when you make a film that's not like other movies. Like I didn't want to make a film that replicated someone else's work, or I didn't want there to be gratuitous sex or any, like, I wanted to do, when I was writing it, and then anytime when I thought that I was getting cliche, I thought, fuck this, let me not go down that path. Let me go down this very unique idea. And for instance, like with the scene that you're talking about, there are nice little Easter eggs where something is happening, and and it works with the film, but there's an obvious reason behind it. And in that scene in particular, it kind of tells you who the bad force is, I guess, if you want to call it that, and without saying it, without being overt. And I think that I particularly like movies where I have to connect the dots. If everything is spoon-fed to me and I know everything by the end of the movie and there's no dispute, there's no intellectual debate about our interpretation of a scene or the movie or whatever, it is, then it didn't really take me to a certain place that I want to be when I watch, the films that I like. And I watch a lot of foreign films, and they tend to be more subtle in foreign films. In American films, unfortunately, I think that they kind of spoon feed the audience everything, and there's no chance of maybe having someone not get everything, and that's okay. That risk is I think is worth it, because just because the audience may not get all the dots connected, they still are intrigued by it. They still, because we're curious people, we want to know, well, maybe I don't understand every little thing about it, but let me maybe watch it again and try, oh shit, now I get it, and it's like, we're curious people, and I kind of feel that, fuck it, if I want to do a film, I don't want to, I want to do something different. I want to do something unique, and I want people to pay attention. And so it was a lot of fun, but yeah, it is scary to show it to any audience, especially when you're doing something that isn't, when girls aren't popping out their tits to get people to watch the movie, or there isn't, gratuitous sex or anything. And, it's, I didn't want to rely on that, because that's easy. Anybody can do that. I mean, that's not the kind of film I want to make.
And see, that's where it becomes unique, because that's where, without the sex, blood, and rock and roll and drugs or whatever, you can do a lot more too, without just showing titties and sex scenes all the time.
And there's nothing wrong with those films. I love those films. I just, particularly as a filmmaker, just didn't want to make one of those. I wanted to do something that was a true psychological thriller, was a fucked up film that was fun to watch, that at times I don't take myself too seriously as a filmmaker, and it shows in the film, because I think sometimes you have to kind of have those peaks and valleys, but it's definitely a fun film to watch. But yeah, I just didn't want to rely on these easy tricks that I don't know. I just, there's
You
not
just
so
don't
many
want to make
times.
something that's already done.
Yeah, exactly. And again, I'm not trying to put those filmmakers down or anything like that, because look, I love those kind of movies. That just, as a creator, I just didn't want to, I'm surrounded by artists. My dad's an artist, I was saying before, and I just, he does his own type of work. When you look at his work, you're like, okay, like, he's got such a great talent for doing what he wants to do. And he decided early on he didn't want to do something that everyone was doing, that, was like the in thing. So for me, for my first narrative feature, I just didn't want to take the easy route, because I feel at the end of the day, it's going to give me more longevity, because people will then be able to watch the film and rewatch it and be like, oh shit, yeah, okay, now I see it. Hopefully they'll see it in the first viewing, but if they don't, hopefully I've intrigued them enough that they're going to want to see it again. And then they'll realize, oh, okay, and now this means this, and, and they get into it. And then, it's just this whole debate of what certain scenes mean or whatever, the hidden messages, and people try to interpret it their own way. And, I think that's what makes it fun. That's what makes filmmaking, watching it, fun.
Oh, I 100% agree with you. And I wanted to touch on what you were saying like a minute ago about the whole, like, you kind of go to the foreign films than like the US and stuff. And I think it's because, excuse me, nowadays the US has two problems. The first problem is definitely remakes and reboots. They don't.
Yeah.
They're definitely running out of ideas of originality, rather than trying to think of something that can be scary. Like, what can be the next scary thing, really? And the foreign country, they're all over the place. And I mean, like, how was I gonna go with this? Oh, yes. So with the foreign films, they give us enough to know a little bit, but we don't fully understand it. They still leave us with our imagination to kind of try to fill in the blank. And I love the imagination, because you can take something and you can try to figure out hundreds of different ways of how to take what you just saw. And then with the US now, we have that problem where everything needs to be answered.
Yeah.
There's no more mystery.
Yeah. And that sucks, because fuck that.
Exactly.
I mean, I'm not an idiot. I want to watch something, and I want to be able to I want to be able to interpret things a little bit. If everything is spoon fed to me, there's no interaction. All then there is just me watching something and like, okay, well, now I get everything. Now I move on. There's no discussion. It's only a discussion. Did you like it? Did you not like it? No, I want to talk about the meaning of that scene, and why did she keep saying that? And why did he say that 3 times? And why did she answer it 3 times? And what about that thing back there, or whatever? It creates a conversation. And growing up as a geek I was a geek, but I was creatively smart, but not school smart. So I just have to preference that. But growing up, I always liked going to the movies and then talking about it and discussing them. And when there was a film that just kind of laid it all out there and that was it, it just didn't create the best conversations. And there are films that I love, that I watched back in the 80s, that I still talk about. And I'm still like, wondering what did that mean, or, and I don't ever want to know. It's nice to have some mystery to it.
Oh yeah. That's a good example that I can actually say about this. What we're kind of touching on is look at like the original Alien franchise. We'll just say 1 to 3. Okay, so we never learned about that mysterious ship that carried or had the alien xenomorph eggs. We don't know where they came from. they mentioned something a little bit about like engineers, or because of the engineer thing that we saw in the middle of the ship on the gun, the famous scene that everybody knows and loves. But now Ridley Scott answered all of that, or tried to. And I'm only saying tried to is because I don't really know what the hell is going on with that third and final trilogy of Ridley Scott, because now with it being with Disney, I hear it's got shelved, and now I'm hearing no, they're still working on it. So which one is it? Because Prometheus kind of answered the engineer question of that ship a little bit. And then we got Alien Covenant, of where the hell the engineers kind of come from, but not really. Like we kind of got an idea, but it wasn't really their home planet. But still, it's answering our question that were once a mystery, and now it's no longer really a discussion, because we kind of quote know the answer unquote.
Yeah. I like a little mystery. I kind of like not knowing all the answers. The Alien was one of, or is one of my favorite films. I really liked it. I tend to like. I did like Prometheus, but I had a lot of problems with it. But for me, I just kind of I just don't need everything spelled out. It's kind of like Jack the Ripper. It came out that they think that they solved who was Jack the Ripper. They found supposedly a police officer came onto the scene where one of the women were murdered and took the scarf that she had, and throughout the history of this family, it fell in the hands of someone that was able to take a sample from it, and supposedly they found out who it was. But there's a lot of discrepancy with that, saying that it's not really the scarf, and the testing that they did doesn't really exclude too many people out. So you can't really hold it as gospel truth. And the fact of the matter is, I don't want to fucking know who Jack the Ripper is, because then there's no mystery to it. Then what the fuck am I going to be watching these documentaries for? It's like the reason why it's so intriguing is because we'll never know who did it. And and of course that's very different from my film. I mean, my film, you do learn a lot, but I just think that you can be successful without explaining everything. And I think a little mystery is good. And I think that there's such a fear, especially when you do, because my film was an ultra low budget. We raised $235,000 for this film. So when you don't have any star power or whatever, and then you're also on top of it doing a psychological thriller, and because this isn't like a slasher movie or anything like that. So we have a lot of things that don't fit in the square peg, basically. And because people in this stage of our film, people want our film to fit in a certain category, and we don't fit in a certain category, because I purposely didn't want to do that, because I, as an artist, as a human being, I like watching movies that aren't perfectly set in a nice little defined box. Like I like watching things that are a little bit of different things, and I like weird shit, and I like fucked up shit, and and so I wanted to make a movie that kind of represented that. I wanted my girlfriend to be like, "What the fuck? Who the fuck am I dating?" Like I kind of wanted that,
Well, then I got a movie for you. Then, if you haven't seen it yet with your girlfriend, then have you seen the French French movie called Martyrs?
I had to look it up on IMDb to see if I ever saw it.
Oh boy! From the way you are talking right now, you have not seen the movie, because anybody that has seen the movie would definitely know what the hell I'm talking about. So yeah, I'm pretty sure from the way you are talking, you have not seen it. And I'll tell you what, man, within the first 10 minutes of that movie, not to shine on this light, but it needs to be, I think, known too, for the fact that, one, if you're looking for a fucked up movie that makes your girlfriend definitely go, "Who the fuck am I dating?" This movie is going to be it. because at the beginning we get a nice little family trying to chit chat about their future, and then all I'm gonna say is all of the horror in this case starts by the doorbell ringing,
All
and
right.
that's all
Well,
I'm gonna say.
I'll definitely check it out. I mean, I love, I love all films that don't necessarily answer every question. Or like, and there's a film, I don't know what country it's from. It's called, I think it's called Dogtooth, and it's about this family that this guy he doesn't allow his kids to leave the property, and he tells them all these lies to keep them there, and they just have these very weird, unusual social skills because they've never been off the property. And he says once your dog tooth falls out, which is like your canine tooth, then you can leave. So of course they're trying to pull out their own teeth because they want to leave the property. And I love that kind of shit because because I want to watch something that I can't predict. If I can watch a movie and predict it, then half the fun is already wasted.
Already gone.
I want to be able to watch a movie and be like, I have no idea what's going to happen. And I especially like it when a director and a writer takes me down a path where I think I'm going to know what's going to happen, and then all of a sudden there's like, nope, fuck you, we're going to do something totally different. And I love those kind of movies because why am I going to see something predictable? I don't want to see something. I know that people like predictable films, and there is a place for that, but for the most part, I want to see something that I haven't seen before. I want to feel maybe uncomfortable or uneasy or whatever it might be. I want to be surprised. I want to be like, holy shit, I had no idea that was going to happen. I think that, and I think more filmmakers really, well, not more filmmakers. I think that distributors should be more aware of that and be more welcoming to that because they don't want to rock the boat. They just basically want to push what they know has a track record. So if you have a certain amount of nudity or a certain amount of XYZ, they can kind of put you in a box and, send you off. But once you start doing something a little bit different, they're not quite sure how to handle it. And then all of a sudden they realize, oh, fuck, people like different. And then they're like, oh, we really like this now. And, do another one of those different because now you've put it in a box. Now my different is now in a box. And now you want me to recreate that so-called different. So it's a fucked up world.
Oh, yeah. Exactly. Exactly. And to actually get into your film now, because I know we've been kind of going sidetracked with other things because, it's always fun to get opinions on different things and, tell people off, or well, not tell people off, but tell people what we think of certain things, like we were talking about with trying to watch a movie in a goddamn theater. But somebody got their phone out. Well, yeah, it's all good. But so out of curiosity, Christopher, is what actually got you into the horror genre, and how did the horror genre inspire you to want to write and direct your film called The Luring?
That's a hard question to answer. I'll try to give you the 15-minute version. No, I'm kidding. I've always loved horror. I grew up watching The Twilight Zone, Tales from the Dark Side, Tales from the Crypt. Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween, Friday the 13th, even black and white horror movies. So I always felt very safe when I was watching horror, oddly enough. I know it sounds kind of weird, but as a kid, I liked watching, well, even Elvira Presents. I mean, it wasn't necessarily horror, but it was like fun, campy horror. But I just always liked it. And then with my short films, if people go to my website, kpictures.com, like the letter K, they'll see the trailer for The Luring. They'll see other short films as well. And most of my short films I kind of categorize them as weird, fucked up short films. And I don't mean fucked up as if like someone's going to take a razor to someone's eyeball fucked up. No, I'm just talking kind of like just fucked up weird shit. They mostly are very dark. And when I did a film called Cynthia, it got some guy, random person, reporter, saw my film and did an amazing review on it. And somehow my film kind of blew up a little bit. We got over like 600,000 views, which may not sound like a lot, but for me that was a lot because all my other films, I have nowhere even near that. And so that film was able to catapult this idea of the luring because these investors saw that film, then started watching my other short films and said, oh, okay, this guy can make a film. And with the house up in Lindenville, Vermont, my mom, when my stepfather died, she could no longer afford that house. She lived in Maryland, but the Vermont was kind of like a vacation house for her. So she said, look, I have to sell this house. And I said, well, can I shoot a film here? She said, yes. I had a very short period of time to write the script, even though I had like a script already in my head. And we wrote it. We shot the first scene of the film. Investors saw that. They liked it. They invested the rest of the money, and we raised some of the money also through online campaigns. And we shot the film entirely, in Vermont. And I also wanted, horror is a genre. Well, I say horror, but it's really a psychological thriller. But I guess it's obviously in the genre of horror. But horror, to me, there always is a place for it. Even if you want to do something different, like I'm trying to do with the luring, there's always going to be an audience for it. Where if you do like a campy comedy, if you don't have star power in your comedy, people may not see it. But with horror, you can use talent that may not be known, even though the actors that we use have done some things here and there, but they're not named talent. And with horror, it gives you that opportunity to show people that, other people may not know who they really are, named talent-wise, but they are talented, and that genre allows us to sort of put the movie out there so people can watch it and they can accept it. Where if you do other types of films, if you don't have a star name attached to it, chances are no one's really going to see that movie. It's kind of weird. Horror, it gives you a lot of boundary, a lot of space to play with, and distributors know that. They know that there's always going to be a place for horror. There's not always a place for other films if you don't play a certain way with them. I don't know if that answers the question or not.
No. You that's a really great way to put it, actually, because I was thinking to myself, horror is actually a great way to experiment as well, to really show what you can do, what you can bring to the table. And I will have to touch on the fact of what you just were mentioning about is you don't have a person in the film that nobody knows, nobody's going to see it, which kind of falls into a very interesting thing when it comes to like what you were saying with you help get some fun through like crowd campaign and stuff. And it brings my next point of this, which is I talked about it before, but if you were to create two different campaigns, and one is a original idea with new cast members, right? But then we get the other film, which may have something to do with, like, for an example, there's a fan film called like Never Hike Alone, which is a Friday the 13th fan film. Everybody is going to support that over the original film because we already know what Friday the 13th is. We already know who Jason Voorhees is. So why would they want to risk putting their money into something they don't know versus something they already know?
Yeah. That's why you have to invest. That's why you have to have investors. I mean, for me, it's a special case because I wanted to do something totally unique. So that's why my advice for filmmakers is that if you want to be unique and you're going to go down this path, which is definitely not easy because, again, people are afraid of different. You have to shoot a scene from your film, show that scene so investors can say, okay, because even though I made a bunch of short films and even though I own a production company and I've worked with different clients, people want to see what is the movie going to look like. If I'm going to give you my money, what is this film going to look like? I don't care about your other short films. I want to know what this film is going to look like. So you have to shoot a scene and you have to invest your own fucking money because you have to have skin in the game. And so when investors know that you have skin in the game and you put your own fucking money into it, they're more apt to give their money because they look at it, they say, wow, this is really cool. And you also invested your own money because I can tell because this scene looks like it costs some money, and then to top it off, you can round it with by putting an online campaign to raise some money. So we raised about maybe, I want to say maybe $40,000 to $60,000 online, roughly around, because I don't know all the numbers right off the top of my head, but most of the money came from private investors. And I think that you're right. If you're going to do something unique and original, it's you're going to have a harder time raising money online, because you have to understand what the formats are and how these platforms work. And I think a lot of people, they think, oh, if I just put it on Indigo or whatever the hell, the online campaigns are, everyone's going to love it and they're going to throw money at me. Well, it doesn't always work that way, especially if you want to do something original, because it just isn't. But if you're going to do like a fan film, then yeah, it's definitely going to be a lot easier to raise money, because everyone knows who Jason Voorhees is, and they just want to kind of support that, because they want to watch something that's like that. But so I think it's important for filmmakers, to understand it's a business, and you have to approach it like a business, and you have to understand, what is my film about, and how am I going to raise the money for this? And no matter what, I think you have to shoot a scene so people can see it. They can see an example of your work.
Oh, I completely agree. I mean, if you don't have anything to really give us to know what we're actually going to be looking at, then yeah, people aren't going to throw any money at whoever is trying to raise funds. Instead, they're just going to be like, oh, whatever. I don't know. That goes back to the whole, well, I don't know if I want to risk my money to create something shitty or something.
Yeah.
So, and I hate to put it like that, because, there's a lot of cool ideas out there, but once again, if you don't show us anything or give us an idea of what the film looks like, as you were mentioning, then yeah, it's not going to work out so well.
But there's a lot of filmmakers out there. It's weird, because I go on LinkedIn every once in a while, and I get these filmmakers that post these things, like they want $3 million for their first fucking movie. And I'm thinking, okay, I shouldn't reply to this, because this person is clearly delusional, but there's a lot of people out there that they think, well, my time is worth something. So if I'm asking for $3 million for my first film, the investors need to know that I put all this time. Investors don't give two flying fucks about your time. All they care about is, did you put skin in it? Are you going to risk your money? Because if you're not going to risk your own money, then why am I going to risk my money? And then another point is, does this look good? If it doesn't look good, I mean, let's face it. I mean, no one's going to give a first-time filmmaker $3 million. So you really should make a film, an ultra-low-budget film. And that's what we did. I mean, I made the mistake years ago, because I had this Hollywood producer that read a script that I wrote, totally different from the horror genre. It's actually a psychedelic love story. I'll put it that way. And he wanted us to raise $3 million. He wanted me to raise $3 million. And I don't know shit about raising money. And now that I've actually done a film from, start to finish, I now know I should never have listened to that producer, because I could have done that film for a fraction of the cost. And for the first time filmmakers, they really need to get a reality check and write the script that can be made. No one is going to give you $3 million fucking dollars unless somehow you're famous, or you're the child of someone famous or something. But it's for the rest of us that, don't have a pot to piss in. We have to be a little bit more realistic, and we have to, it's a lot easier to raise an ultra low budget and make your film than it is to raise $3 million and never make your film. I mean, that sucks. So I get a little
exactly. Yeah, exactly. Now, I know you were kind of mentioning it a little bit there, Christopher, about writing your script in a short time, but if you wouldn't mind elaborating more of how long it kind of took about writing the script to then direct the film to make it a reality.
Sure. So what happened was, when my mom told me she couldn't afford the house and she had to sell it. I mean, we had this house since 1989, so I was like
Oh,
devastated
wow.
when she told me that she had to get rid of it. I mean, it's a small kind of, I don't want to say it's a cabin, but it's like the size of a cabin basically. And so I had this idea of this short film that I had written, and it was kind of like a standalone kind of short film. I'm sorry, I had two of these short films that I wrote, and I had this idea of this balloon. That what if this balloon traveled within these two stories? And I don't know why I was thinking that, because these two stories really had nothing to do with each other. And so when the opportunity arose, and I had a deadline, then your brain starts to work in a very different way. Because when you're just kind of writing and you don't really have a deadline, you're not under the gun. So when I had a deadline, because I had to write the script, I looked at these two short films that I wrote, and I thought, okay, let me put this together. And the first script became the first scene of the movie, or the beginning of the film, and the other script was the last part of the film. Actually, the scene that you were talking about with the kid and the nanny. And so for me, I had my 2 points. I had my beginning and I had my ending. And all I had to basically do was connect the dots. How do I go from point A to point Z? And I just started, working from there, trying to figure things out, and some other ideas that I had in the back of my brain that I would then put forth on the computer. And if it didn't work out, that was fine. Then I would just kind of hash it out, and I just somehow worked it out. But the most important thing that worked out for me, and I think this works out for anybody, is I had a deadline. If I didn't show my mom a script within 3 months, the house was going to be sold. Actually, she once I showed her the script, and I showed Brian Berg, who was he's one of my co-producers. We all felt, okay, something good is happening here. And so my mom then told the agent, okay, look, tell whoever wants to buy the house that we can't let it go till May 18th. And I think we wrapped May 12th. So it was, I knew that there was a lot riding on this, because who am I to tell my mom not to sell her house? I mean, she's 80 years old. She deserves to have her house sold and to have that money, so one day the government can take it away, because, our government likes to take away money from elderly people because Medicare sucks, but that's a whole other fucking topic. But so I knew that there was, a lot of riding on this. And I think when you have a deadline, you just make it work. You write it because you have to. And it's a lot harder to write when you don't have that deadline, because there's all these excuses to not write your story, because it's not easy, because it's one thing to have an abstract idea, because it's very attractive. But once you put that motherfucker on your, on your screenwriting, and you're really hashing it out, that's when the real work comes out. And you really have to hammer these characters, and then you have to show it to someone, and someone's going to tell you that maybe this sucks, and you have to rework it. And that's scary. So a lot of people, they like to kind of keep their ideas in this nice little safe idea box. But ideas don't do anything unless it becomes something tangible. And that tangible thing is the script. And you have to have a deadline. So there you have it with my little... I feel like I'm yelling, like I'm getting angry. I hope I'm not coming off. I'm very passionate.
Now,
I'm actually a very chill dude.
Right. Now, when you were writing the script, was there any scene that was originally in the script, but when it came down to... that had to be cut out?
Yes. And so I wrote the script, and then we edited it. And of course, when you're shooting an ultra low budget, some things may not come out the way that you want it. Or there was this one scene that we shot in the car, and for whatever reason, there was something, I don't know what happened with the camera that day, but it just didn't look the way it should. And Amanda McGrady is our DP, and she's fucking amazing. But there was just something that just didn't look right in that scene. And so I got rid of that scene, and then, the first cut was 2 hours and 3 minutes. And we then we cut it down to, I don't know, maybe 1 hour and 50 minutes, let's say. And we showed it at Jersey for a test screening, and then we thought, we should really trim this down even further. And when because we obtained a sales agent, Summerhill is our sales agent, so they're selling the film worldwide right now. We got into this festival before we signed with them, and so when I got the notification that we got into the festival, I reached out to Summerhill and I said, "Hey, is it okay that I show it?" And they said, "Yeah. If anything, it's just going to be free publicity, so yeah, go for it." I'm like, "Okay, great." But in the process of getting a sales agent, we had all these other sales agents looking at our film, and they said, "Look, it's a business. You're going to have to do another cut to your film." So we did. We listened to them because I'm not going to be arrogant and think I know everything. And I listened to them, and it was the best advice I ever had because they were right. Because by the time we made that other cut, the film right now is solid. And it you have to get your feelings hurt a little bit. You can't hold on to pride for too long because pride doesn't pay the bills. And if these people they distribute movies for a living and they're saying, "Look, you're going to have to tweak your film a little bit to make it better so we can sell it," well, you better listen to them. And again, it was a growing experience because, again, this is my first narrative feature. I did a documentary that was a feature length, but very different from what I'm doing now. And so, I'm you have to know when to listen to people and know when to tell people to go fuck themselves. And you don't tell distributors to go fuck themselves because you need them more than they need you. And if they're telling you, "Hey, you might want to trim this scene or trim it a little bit to get it down to a certain amount, of time," you got to listen to them. And for me, it was a great experience because now I look at my film and I'm like, "Oh my God, thank God someone outside of my little tiny film bubble said, nah, tweak it a little bit." And I think that I'm just very happy that happened. I mean, at the time I was nervous because I was like, "Oh, who the fuck are these people to tell me?" And then after punching the wall a few times, I thought, you know what, I got to take it. You got to be a man. You got to fucking take it. And you cut it, and then you realize, holy shit, I was wrong. I should have listened. I'm glad I listened to them. So I was wrong by fighting it at first, and now I'm glad that I did. So
right
there you have it.
The other thing that I'm actually kind of curious about is now how does one go about trying to figure out what scenes should be cut out or just trimmed down? So in this case, like, was it the distributors that were like, "Hey, it's this, like, well, this scene seemed too long, or maybe if you shorten this," or like, I'm just curious of the process a little bit. Is how do people really know what to take out, and when is it kind of too much?
Well, that's a very interesting question because in our case, what happened is that after when we showed it at Jersey, we kind of had a feeling what we knew we had to cut out, and then we did a cut, and then we had a producer rep, Ryan. I can't think of his fucking last name right now, but Ryan was our producer rep at the time, and he was showing it to a bunch of different sales agents. We actually had about 5 sales agents that we could have signed with. We ended up signing it with Summerhill because we just kind of liked them. We just felt that they were a good fit. Now, through this process, we were talking to maybe 7 or 8 or 10, I don't even remember now, sales agents. Obviously, some people said no, it wasn't the right film for them. But some people were saying you have to cut it down. There was this one sales agent that wanted us to cut it down. He had all these fucking notes. And I kind of didn't agree with some of them. And my editor, Lucas Labataglia, and I, and also Brian, we kind of didn't agree with everything that he was saying. But we agreed with some of them. So we started cutting the film down because it was the same kind of feedback that we were getting from some other sales agents. But then we realized that this guy wanted us to make a film that explained everything. He didn't like any weirdness. He didn't like anything that was a little different. And so he wanted us to cut out all that uniqueness. So then we had a conversation with Ryan. We said, you know what? We want weird shit happening in our film. We don't want people to watch our film and think, okay, this is just a vanilla movie. Like we want weirdness. And Ryan was like, yeah, well, you made a film that has really these really nice colors in it. So yeah, you shouldn't cut everything out. So we ended up not listening to him, and we actually basically told him, said, hey, we just don't think we're the right film for you, because when we were looking at his library, or their library, we realized that none of their films had anything that I would like to watch, basically. They were all basic they were horror movies, but they were kind of, you watch the movie and you kind of get it, and there it is, and okay, great, the naked girl got slashed up, okay, I've seen that before. There was nothing unique that he had in his library, and so we thought, it just wasn't the right fit. So you do have to kind of understand, well, who's telling you what to cut, and what is their main objective. And with Summerhill, I always felt that they had our best interest at hand, and they were just very nurturing. And when they made suggestions, it wasn't like they were trying to tell us what to do. It was suggestions. And I think as a fragile filmmaker, because let's face it, all filmmakers are fragile as fuck. It was nice to have that kind of diplomacy from them, telling us these nice suggestions, and it worked out beautifully, because again, we then took those suggestions, and then we then did things that we didn't even think about until we heard those suggestions. Like there's some scenes that we totally recut and made it even better than what they were suggesting. And if it wasn't for that opportunity to have the film in front of these people, we never would have gotten to that point. And again, once now that I see the film, I'm like, oh, thank God. What was I thinking with that 2 hour and 3 minute cut? Now it's like, 1 hour and 38 minutes or 1 hour, whatever it is, and it's like, holy fuck, thank God other people intervened and told me, hey, Chris, you need to chill the fuck out a little bit, maybe cut that scene down a little bit, So it's nice to get your ass kicked a little bit. It just is. You have to roll around a little bit, get dirty, and and you can't cry about it,
Yeah, and that's the problem with nowadays. Sometimes is that there's too many people that cry about it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it's just how else are you going to be able to learn? Like you're saying, like thank God for these people that told me, and I wouldn't have any idea. And then now you like the film better than it originally was with the 2 hours. So yeah, it helped a lot. And the test screening is like probably the best way to get your answers. So, and I mean, people will be straight up with you. Oh yeah, people will be straight up with you. Yeah. Now, how when it comes to, like we were talking about at the very beginning, when it comes to familiar faces or something. Now, how did it come down to finding the right casting crew to have in your film?
That's another. You have a lot of great questions. That's a really good question. I think that a lot of films cast people that really shouldn't be in the movie business. A lot of people, a lot of times when I see these ultra low budget films, I'm thinking, oh my God, what the fuck were they thinking about this casting? And there is such a thing as star power, and I think it's just a feeling. And when we casted our film, we saw a lot of great, talented people. But the people that we ended up with, I feel like Rick, the main lead in the film, I think that he just has a charisma about him that I want to watch. Same thing with Michaela, who played Claire, his girlfriend, and Molly played this other great character, and Dan, who plays this. I mean, I looked at these people, and Mary McGloon is a friend of mine. She's also my casting director, and she also acted in the film. When we were casting, you go on a feeling. Now, obviously, they have to have experience, and you have to make sure that they're SAG, and you have to make sure that they've done certain things, so they're not going to forget the lines and all that other shit. But when they walk in, there's just this unspoken feeling that they can carry the movie, and they have a certain kind of movie star kind of quality about them that I think that all of them are going to have great careers. And I think that, you just have to kind of go with your gut. And I think all the actors that we hired, I really feel that, they are very watchable. Where sometimes when I watch a movie, especially with ultra low budget films, I think casting is so important. And if you don't get that right, you're really going to make it hard for yourself to make money. And I think, and I'm not talking about people that need to be attractive. It's not that. It's a charisma. It's a certain it factor that they have to have. And we really lucked out. I mean, we were casting in New York City, so which helped because we got, everyone that wanted to be in the film. So we saw, Jesus Christ, I don't even know how many people we saw, but we saw a lot of people. And it's a process that I think is really benefited the film, because I think, again, we just got kick-ass actors. They're all they just have a quality about them that you want to watch. And so, and I also think it worked out. We got a lot of female support because they liked the fact that there was a kick-ass girl in the movie. They also liked that there wasn't any gratuitous sex, but yet there's a sexiness to it. You can be sexy without being, gratuitous. And so we had a lot of great support with women that were like, okay, great, finally, good. Like, you're not going to stoop down to that level. You're going to show other things and other facets and other, talents and a way about things, go about things that aren't going to be, the cheap way. And so that was nice. I even got letters from girls women that went for the audition that they knew they didn't get the part, but they were like, you know what? I really hope that your film does well, because you're not doing like a sleazy, cheesy fucking film. Again, I love those movies at certain times. I just didn't want to make one for myself. And so it was nice to kind of get that positive reinforcement from all these women, because I think women have awesome ideas. They have great opinions and they kick ass. And I think if you can make guys and girls happy and intrigued, you've got something. And so I thought we did that.
Oh yeah, and just to throw it out there, I mean, let's put it this way: women can make movies too, not just guys.
Yeah.
And
yep,
sometimes
exactly.
the women can make the most ridiculously fucked up shit that a guy I don't think would ever think of too, from what I've seen. So it's like, wow, I don't know who's worse, women or men.
Yeah.
But
Well,
I think they
with
both
our
have it.
film with Amanda, our DP, she was great because she looked at an early writing of my script, and she looked at one of the scenes that I had a scene where it just was not. It was just stupid violent. It didn't fit into the movie. It just wasn't. It's just not that kind of film. Even though my film is violent, it just, this scene didn't work. And she just very nicely said, "Do you really want to have this scene in your movie?" And I knew by her voice, I thought, let me relook at that, and she was right. And I think if it was a guy, like, none of my guy friends picked up on it, and she did. And so I really owe it to, and also my girlfriend and also my mom. I mean, there was a lot of very strong, independent women that looked at my script and made sure it wasn't going to suck. I'm very lucky to have women in my life that they don't candy coat shit. They tell me the real deal. They're not going to try to stroke my ego or try to, they're going to say, look, they might be nice and diplomatic about it, but they're going to let me know. And I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, I was just gonna say too, that before is between men and women, I do find that both genders have like a equal thing when it comes to making films anyway for the horror genre, and it's just really cool what people can really think to come up with. And like one lady, I'll just give a quick mention to, because like when I watched her film, it literally blew my mind to bits for a little bit. And I think it's because of the way she did it, and I haven't really seen any type of psychological horror or thriller, depending on who is listening, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of have it like I haven't seen this type of film in a long time, so that's probably, or maybe haven't really, to make you really think, like we were
Mm-hmm.
talking about before. But this movie is called Three Eye for an Eye, so I would definitely check that out. It's by a lady named Lou Simon or Simmons.
Mm-hmm.
I apologize right now if I butchered the last name the first time. But very nice lady. I definitely just think that she definitely should have that movie more out there because it's really cool, and some people just don't like it because they find it to be predictable. But I could not find it predictable, and I just think it's just the haters out there that just want to hate. But what do I know?
There's a lot of haters out there, man. And the internet ain't doing. They're not hurting the haters; they're helping them. And yeah, there's haters everywhere. It sucks.
Oh yeah, well it sucks too when some people try to reach out to the fan to know like what they like to try to incorporate whatever they mention into either a game, movie, whatever. It really doesn't really matter what they're trying to get help with, and sometimes it can go 50-50, and sometimes it can actually do really good, or it can be so bad that it's just like, why did you listen in the first place? So
Yeah.
it's it's really hard to even like with you guys. It sounds like you guys knew who to actually listening to versus falling into a trap where it's just like, well, maybe if you did this, and then it could have butchered your movie entirely, and then you
Oh,
probably wouldn't even like it. So yeah.
yeah. I mean, even like with my short films. Again, if people go to my website kpictures.com, they can see the trailer for The Luring. I mean, The Luring has a website too, theluring.com, and that's TheLuring.com. But if they go to my website, kpictures.com, they can watch some of my short films. And with, like, for instance, Cynthia, it was kind of like a psychological kind of like thriller, that I made, and took me a day to shoot it. And I just was kind of having fun doing it, and it kind of blew up a little bit in a good way. But of course, I get these assholes commenting on YouTube, saying whatever, and you just can't let them bother you because you have to focus on the fact that I made a fucking film, and it got me to make another film, and I'm thankful and blessed to have this opportunity. And if you listen to all these assholes that hide behind their computers, that they know that you'll never find out who they are, they're just a bunch of pussies, and why are you going to listen to them? So it's very easy for people to spread hate, and fuck those assholes.
You reminded me of a story real quick, and that is one of my buddies recently actually put out his debut film. It's called The Incident at Montauk, and it's a UFO movie, sci-fi movie, and so there's this one review that came through, and this is what I loved about this. So this account was recently made because clearly this person wanted to shit on two films, and I'll explain in like right now. So the reason why I think it's fresh and new is because this person went on to my friend's film, and I believe this might have been the first review he did, and and in the review he said, "Man, I love the found footage. I mean, I like to give anything a shot, but this film just blows. It just sucks. It's a horrible acting, horrible ending, shaky camera." And I stopped there and I'm like, wait a minute, shaky camera? I'm like,
Yeah,
dude,
yeah,
if you love found footage, there's gonna be shaky cameras all over the place
yeah,
because that's what found footage is.
yeah,
And
exactly.
then another film that I saw and interviewed the writer and director and actor for is called The Night, or Night. Sorry, Night, not The Night, but Night. And this was also this guy's debut film, like feature length, and the same person rated a 1 star and said this is goddamn horrible. And I'm like,
Yeah,
wait a minute. I'm so confused because I thought you loved the found footage, so I'm so
yeah.
confused. So
Well,
it's just
with Yelp and YouTube and all these ways of putting your opinion anonymously, it's very easy for people to be secret assholes, and it's very hard, to tell someone to their face, you think that their movie sucked, because most people wouldn't do that, and there's just more diplomacy when you are approaching someone in person if you don't necessarily like their film, but you can maybe find something that you did like about it, or the fact that, hey, they at least they made something. But on YouTube or Yelp or all these other places where you can put in your BS review, it's very easy for people to, be these assholes, and it just sucks, because I don't care how bad your film is. If you've made a movie, it is hard to do, and that requires a level of respect. Even if the movie sucks, at least they did something, and at least you can, especially if they're trying to do something different, at least they're trying to do something different, because it's so easy to do something easy. It's so easy to do something that has been done before, or whatever. And I think people should just respect the fact that filmmakers deserve a level of respect, even if you don't like their movie. Just why hate? I mean, I just don't. Maybe people need to smoke more weed.
People need to chill more.
Yeah, I mean, Jesus Christ, smoke a joint, chill the fuck out. I mean, really, is it that bad that you have to, ferociously type on your little computer that you hate something? I mean, really? Like, don't you have any? I mean, maybe you should jerk off or smoke weed or something, because something's not right. Like, Jesus Christ, I don't get it. I just don't get it.
Well, I'll have to touch on too real quick, because you once again reminded me of something that I usually do too, or is like, so when I usually, whether it being on Facebook or whatever, if I have a chance to reply to some idiot that's trying to bash on a film, one of the replies I literally do, and I kind of piss off the other person to the point, because so, like we're just talking about, they'll go on and hate the film and blah blah blah, and they give no respect for the fact that you were saying that at least they made a film. So my response would be, hey, how about you make a fucking film, and then we're gonna judge your film?
Yeah.
And of course, I get the technical response. Well, I can't do that. No, everybody can. Everybody can make a film. So, I mean, with technology nowadays, just use your goddamn phone, and that's how you can make a movie. You don't really need the expensive stuff, but I mean, a phone can work just as easy. But yeah, I usually say stuff like that, and of course, I usually get the whole, "Well, I don't have time for that," and I'm thinking to myself, "Well, you have time to sit behind your fucking computer and fucking type this out? Okay."
I usually use this program that my friend developed, and basically I'm able to find the address of where these people live, and I just show up at their house and I just murder their dog.
I just hack into their account, and then I send them their dead puppy or something in a box. Yeah, that's not creepy.
I have to preference that I actually love dogs, and no dogs were killed in that joke. So.
Yeah, no dogs or animals were harmed while recording this podcast. We love animals. Exactly. At least I do. Wait. Anyway, I'm pretty sure we're all animal lovers here, so I'm pretty sure I would have killed. I'm pretty sure then Christopher and I would go to whoever, maybe your house, whoever's listening, your house, because you are the fucking idiot that maybe abused the dog or killed the dog. So now, guess what we're gonna do? Christopher and I are gonna come in, smash your fucking head in, cut off your fucking tongue, and then we're gonna feed it down maybe inside of your asshole. Wait, what? Getting back on topic, though.
We digress.
Digress that. Yeah, think about that. You don't want your tongue cut off and shoved up your ass, do you? All right, be good. Now, we were talking about some of your challenges a little bit there, Christopher, about, trying to find a location, which was your mother's property, and you had a short deadline for the script, which was 3 months, you said. And you had the one particular scene where the camera would be all fucked up and whatever, and it didn't work, so you had to cut out the scene. Now, were there any type of other challenges while filming?
Oh my God. I mean, yeah, it rained for 15 consecutive days, and my AD comes up to me and he says, I've never once saw a movie set where it was going to rain for 15 consecutive days. So we somehow worked it out. There's a beautiful scene that we shot. I can't remember the lake right now. It's not Lake Willoughby. I can't think of it right now. But it was raining, and we were waiting for the rain to subside. And
Not
we
Lake
set up the
Champlain,
dolly.
right?
Say that again?
Not Lake Champlain?
No. It's a small lake. It's I can't think of the name of it right now. But so we set up the dolly. We're waiting for the break in the rain, and we got this break. And Michael, my AD, says, "Look, we've got maybe 15 minutes to shoot this scene." So like, okay, fuck, So we set up the actors, and I say, "Look, I hate telling my actors this, but we probably might only have 1 or 2 takes of this." And I'm like, I'm sorry, but that's just the way it is. Even though our shooting ratio was primarily about maybe 1 to 4, but whatever, that's a whole other thing. But anyway, so we set up the dolly. We have this beautiful break in the rain. We dolly in. The actors fucking nailed it. We were able to shoot 2 or 3 more takes of that, but it was the first one that they got, and it was the first one that we used. It was just they just did it perfectly, and we were able to shoot some coverage. But when we were in the editing room, I kept looking at that one slow dolly shot, and I thought, man, there's no reason to cut. Let's just let the camera do its job, and it just worked out really nicely. But there's always like challenges when you make especially an ultra low budget film, because you have to wear many hats. Like continuity, I was the continuity guy. We couldn't afford to have someone be our script supervisor, so I basically had to do that and make sure that the what they were wearing was the same thing that they were wearing over here, and if we called cut, or if I called cut, then we're changing the camera angle, then I have to make sure that person stepped over here and not there, and whatever. And so you have to wear many hats. I was obviously the writer, director, producer, but I was also the PA. I had to scrub the floor because it was mud season, and all that mud came into the house, and my mom was selling the house, so that was a lot of fun. But yeah, there's always challenges because we didn't have the money to fuck up. And when you're working with a film and when it's raining, you have people coming in and they're set for their schedule. Again, we were working with SAG actors. And so, if they're going to come in for day 1, day 2, day 3, and you can't shoot day 3, that you can't keep them for day 4. Like, they have to leave. So you have to think on your feet. So there were some scenes that I originally wanted it to, let's say, be in the woods, but then I had to change it because for whatever reason. There was one time when Amanda got violently ill and she was throwing up. I don't know if it was food poisoning. It definitely wasn't from our catering. Our catering was great, but she couldn't shoot. So our AD had to step in, not our AD, our AC had to step in and shoot a couple shots. Then she was able to come back. I mean, she's a fucking, trooper. There was so many little things so many little and big things that happened during the shooting, but Vermont is a great place to shoot, but I wish that there was a film commissioner here. Getting catering, there was only one caterer, at least in this part of Vermont. Everyone else is in Massachusetts, so it was hard to get a caterer, but the one that we got, we really liked. It's hard to get crew here because everyone's really in New Hampshire. I'm sorry, in Massachusetts. I think Amanda lives in New Hampshire, but southern New Hampshire. So, Vermont has its own unique, kind of difficulties, because it's not like shooting in New York where, if you want anybody, you can get it. Vermont, you really have to search. Another thing that is weird about shooting up here, and I love Vermont, but one thing that was weird is that we reached out to these acting schools because we needed kids. And a lot of these people never even, they wouldn't write back to us. There was no sense of urgency. And I remember we finally did the casting. We had to be very creative to get these actors to on the set. And then, during the movie and even after the movie, I would get, hey, are you still shooting your movie? Yeah, I found some actors for you. They're in my acting class. I'm thinking, what the fuck? Like, if this was New York, you write to an acting class or an acting school, you're going to get a response in the next, 4 hours or less. There was no urgency with a lot of these people, and I felt that they really lost their opportunity to be in a film because there's not too many films being shot in Vermont, and so it was a little strange not getting that sense of urgency from some of these people, but we lucked out. We thought outside the box and were able to get all these kids to be in the final scenes in the film, and so. But yeah, I mean, anywhere you're going to shoot, there's always going to be Murphy's Law. You always have to try to be in front of Murphy's Law, so you're trying to outrun it. But Murphy's Law will always catch up. There's always going to be something that you couldn't predict, and you just have to think on your feet. And for me, shooting a lot of my short films, there was always problems shooting because I primarily work with a very modest budget, and you just learn how to roll with it. You just learn how to rewrite the scene or rework it where you're not going to lose time because you're not going to get everything that you need sometimes, but you're definitely going to get everything that you want, and there's a difference, and you have to understand that as a good director how to manipulate the situation in your favor, and it's a compromise, but you should never leave thinking I didn't get what I wanted, so I don't know if that helps or not.
Yeah, you did it. Yeah, no, I'll touch on what you're saying about Vermont. Vermont is kind of weird because, I'm actually was shocked when I saw, the article going around from, 7 days and whatever the other site was that I saw, and, because I'm thinking to myself, wow, this is a state that fucking chewed on my friend's short film that he did that I kind of acted in a little bit to help him out. It's called Dead Static. It's actually available on YouTube, Chris, if you wanted to check it out. And but when this film first came out on YouTube, Vermont people blew up about this film, and I'm talking like bad. People hated this film for whatever reason. And then once people from out of state started to come in, or even out of the country, people started to love it. And it's just Vermont is so fucking weird to me because it's just I just feel like Vermont doesn't like horror, so it really shocked the shit out of me when I saw 7 days talking about a horror film being made here, and I'm like, wait, what? Am I talking my home state is not blowing up about this? What the fuck? So yeah, I just don't understand Vermont half the time. But then again, we used to have a film festival here too, but then it, I guess, died or whatever happened to it. Stopped going around, and this used to take place in Burlington, I believe, if I remember correctly, somewhere around that neighborhood. Anyway, but yeah, it's just so cool. So I congratulate you on the press release for this film.
Thank you.
Because, yeah. I don't know what the hell is going on with Vermont, but that was definitely a shocker for me.
Yeah, I would love, Vermont. I love Vermont. Vermont has a special place for me, and it always will. And I hope that there could be more films shot in Vermont. I mean, Vermont has there's just something special about Vermont, and there just is. And I really. Yeah, and it breaks my heart when I drive around and I see all these businesses that are out of business, and people in Vermont, I find them extremely intelligent, very passionate, and very kind of soft spoken, and there's an intelligence and a something very special about that. Where in New York, it's very different. In Vermont, I always love coming up here, and I think Vermonters really deserve the best, and I would love. I think horror is Vermont's a beautiful state, but I think it's a great place to shoot horror. And I wish that there was a film commissioner here. I wish that they just were able to attract more people to shoot here because Lord knows, Vermont needs the money. I mean, it's, some of these towns, I feel so bad, these towns that are, really hurting, and it would be really nice for local economies to support films because, when we were shooting here, even though we were a little tiny film, we gave a lot of businesses a lot of money. I mean, we made a lot of friends, and it was really nice and gratifying to help out the local community. And that was just our little tiny, rinky-dinky little tiny film. Imagine if there was more films shot in Vermont, it would really help the economy a lot. And I hope that maybe, I know that there's a few festivals in Vermont, but there seems to be a few people in Vermont that are pulling the strings, and they're not really allowing other people in, and it's unfortunate.
Oh yeah, I agree. I just think part of it must be some of the Vermont community that just, I don't know, just hate on everything or something. I don't know. I really don't know, but it's just so odd that they would attack a filmmaker for trying to make a movie here in Vermont sometimes, like we kind of were when we tried releasing, or when the friend that I made when making Dead Static with them, like, it was just really weird to see that, because usually when it came to Vermont with me, I always see small supportive people, businesses, whatever, and I don't think I've ever really heard of Vermont like really bashing on anything. But then when Dead Static came out, oh my goodness, it's
Mm.
just it was just horrible. There was a lot of negativity at first.
Yeah, that's too bad. It sucks. It's it sucks when people are mean to filmmakers. It's hard enough to make a film. It's even harder when you have people that don't support it and go out of their way to try to bash it, because it's not an easy business. When you do any kind of art, you're vulnerable. You're putting your art out there for people to look at, criticize, take in, whatever. And when people are assholes about it, it's just, obviously you have to have thick skin, but it's also, don't be a dick. I mean, really, like, keep it to yourself, or just keep it within your friends. But, to go out of your way to try to make someone feel like shit, it's, there's some psychological bullshit going on. It's, it's just, I don't get it. It's just, people must hate themselves because they're bashing others. It just doesn't make sense to me. It sucks.
The only thing I can just think of is, like, like we were talking, well, like I was talking about earlier with that guy who made that fresh Amazon account and one starred the two films that he supposedly loved, found footage, but whatever. Anyway, the point that I'm trying to make is internet has become the new way to become your own critic.
Oh, yeah.
So it's just, they get to say whatever they want, and they don't care, and whatever. It's just whatever. Internet is just a whole new topic anyway.
Yeah.
But
No, it's
right.
yeah, for my next film, I'm not quite sure where we're going to shoot it. I'm working on a few things right now, and Brian and I have to kind of talk, because I think we're both kind of itching to do something different. Do something again, and so maybe we'll shoot something in Vermont, maybe not. I mean, it wasn't easy. I just wish that there were more people shooting up here, because I think Vermont has a lot of opportunities. But yeah, I mean, when you're thinking about having a catering and all these other crew people, and if you gotta, if they gotta travel, it can get costly. And it's kind of, in, like, for instance, because you have to house them in New York. Like, I can get a crew, and then everyone goes to their apartments at night. I don't have to pay for housing, So it's kind of like, all of a sudden you just saved, $5,000, So
Oh yeah.
I don't even remember what we spent on the Airbnbs, but we were shooting it during mud season, so it was an off season, which is good for us. But any other season, it would be a lot more expensive. So we were lucky that we were shooting in mud season. Actually, we were shooting it from, I don't know when, I think it was like from April 13th to May 15th or something like that. And we would shoot for 5 to 6 days, and we'd have 2 days off.
Oh
And
wow.
yeah, so we would have been shooting now, actually, and the weather, it was like this. It was very wet, and it was very muddy, and there was still snow on the ground right before the day we were shooting. We didn't know how we were going to deal with that. Thank God it melted. But yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I guess you need to bring out those hair dryers, man, and
Yeah.
some like I don't know, like some heaters or some shit. I don't
Yeah.
know.
God, it was scary. Yeah.
uh,
And
yeah, but right now the Warren is actually out doing the film festival route. Now, for the future though, are we once the Warren is done with the film festival route, are we gonna be able to see it out on like VOD or DVD?
yeah, totally. So basically, I actually had a phone meeting with Summerhill yesterday, and they have it. They're talking to a whole bunch of different people for many different platforms, not only for the United States but basically worldwide. So they have a worldwide contract with us for 3 years, and it will be showing everywhere. And obviously, once we get that release date, I'm gonna send you an email and say, hey, let's do a follow-up interview, because then you'll be able to watch the movie and we'll be able to have a different kind of conversation with it. But yeah, I mean, right now it will be shown on many different platforms, and I got the okay from Summerhill that Brian and I will be able to, once the movie has a release date, we will be able to show the film in theaters in Vermont. So it will play in St. Johnsbury. If I can get another theater to play the film, great. I hope so. We actually may even have a theatrical release. It depends if these distributors agree to it or not. Who knows? But oddly enough, it's a lot of money to have a theatrical release, and a lot of films don't even go that route because it doesn't make financial sense. Unless like you're a big Hollywood movie. I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about, little films like mine. But regardless, we will be showing it in St. Johnsbury, and hopefully there'll be another place in Vermont. I'd love to show it in Burlington because I love Burlington. And if
Bring
if
it
there's any
over to
theater,
Rutland.
I would love to do it. Believe me. I mean, any theater that would show the movie, we would love to do like a little tour with it. And we got the okay from Summerhill to do that. So it will be shown, but we're just waiting for the release date, and I don't know when that's going to happen. And Summerhill said, look, it's very common at this stage, because we just got signed with them maybe 4 months ago, maybe something around there. So it takes time for things to develop. They still have to, get a lot of, they have the film out with a lot of different distributors, but it's very common for this to be in the quiet stage, he called it. There's nothing to be alarmed about. We just have to wait to see what these people say. But if you look at Netflix and Amazon Prime, you see a lot of different movies. We're definitely going to be shown. So they're just hammering away and selling the movie. So I'm excited to show it in Detroit, but more importantly, I would love to show it in Vermont. Oh my God, fuck yeah! Bring that film back to Vermont. Let Vermonters see it, because if it wasn't for Vermont, we wouldn't have been able to make it. So I'd love to be able to show it.
Awesome. Yeah, Vermonters definitely. Well, I don't know if we always deserve the credit, but we have been had some pretty big. Well, yeah, I guess I would say pretty big names run through here. Like, besides your film, we also can say we actually had, Beetlejuice come in here. We had him
Oh,
come in here to Vermont. So, I mean,
I
I don't
didn't know
know how many people actually even know that, but
I
yeah,
didn't know that.
Beetlejuice. Yeah, Beetlejuice came to, oh God. Um, I'm just gonna say some town in Vermont. I can't really remember the name right now. It's like
Huh?
East Cornish or something like that.
Huh?
East,
That's awesome.
yeah, and I was shocked when I learned about that. I was like, really? And then I was just like, oh, cool. And then they're actually thinking about bringing Beetlejuice back to Vermont this year for like a screener night or something, like
Oh
kind of
wow.
like a anniversary thing.
That'd be great. I love it when states or towns do that. It makes it fun. Brooklyn, where I live, they kind of do that a lot. It's fucking Brooklyn. It's always nice to kind of to see a movie in where they shot it, or they have special screenings. It just makes it cool, especially for places like Vermont. I think it's very special, and I think people would like to join that. I think that's awesome.
Oh yeah, and to wrap it up, your interview here, there, Christopher, is I kind of want to know just what are the details for the Motor City Nightmares Film Festival that you were talking about?
Well, I don't really know quite a bit. It's my first time going there. I don't know how much press they're really going to get. All I know is that there's going to be some horror celebrities there, and I guess as a filmmaker, I'll be able to rub elbows with them. I'm not much the one to get autographs, but I'm totally down to talk to people. I'm hoping that we get a good crowd to see the film, because in Kansas City we packed the house and they loved it, and I'm hoping that that's going to happen in Motor City. I've never been to Detroit, so I'm looking forward to that. I don't know. I mean, I have to basically go there and experience it before, I really talk intelligently about it. I'm hoping that I have a fun. I think I will. I think I'll have a good time, but we'll see. I mean, I kind of wish that they were going to do a little bit more press. And when I look at their website, the one thing that I wish they did is that I wish that they had a link to the film, because when you go to the Motor City Nightmares Film Festival, their website, you don't really know what these films are about. You go to their schedule and there's nothing to click on. And so I'm kind of thinking, okay, well, how will people know what movie to watch ahead of time? Now, I know that they're going to spread our posters around. It's because it's at this really nice hotel, and they've got all these like movie screens that they're going to be showing the films at. But besides the posters, I would think that you'd have a link to the trailer or to the website. So people are going to be in Detroit. They're going to be like, "What the fuck is the luring about?" And so, obviously, like I said, we sent them 50 posters, so hopefully they'll hang them all. But for the people that are thinking about it, that may not be. You want to entice them, and I'm not quite sure. Again, I'm not trying to put them down or tell them how to do their film festival, because obviously they've been doing it for a while and they're getting a lot of people. But I'm just a little surprised that
it's a good suggestion. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. I just kind of wish that there was a link because I don't even know what to watch. There's all these names. I'm like, well, what movie do I want? I have no idea. I mean. So part of it's kind of nice to maybe not have an idea about it, because you kind of go in there with no preconceived notions. But I don't know. I mean, I might only want to watch a certain type of horror film, and if I can't click on the link, then how do I know? So it's a different experience. We'll see what happens, but hopefully we'll get some something out of it. And but more importantly, or not more importantly, but with Summerhill, they're selling the film, and that's a bigger kind of deal, because there really isn't any money in the festival market, basically. The only thing that you really do at the festivals is basically it's marketing, and it's trying to obtain a sales agent, which we already did. So for this, it's just pure fun. Like, I'm going to go there, I'm going to get shit-faced, I'm going to watch my movie, shake a few hands, kiss a few babies, and, just chill out, have fun.
Maybe kill a couple of animal abusers. Yeah, it'll be fun.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, why not? No, well, thank you, Chris, for your time, and thank you for reaching out. And just for those listening, so if people wanted to learn more about the lore and anything about you, again, where can people keep up to date on what's coming out with you and keep up with the lore? And
well, the best place to go is my website is kpictures.com, like the letter K, and there they'll see a trailer for The Luring. They'll see some of my other short films. If people like fucked up short films, they'll like my short films. If they want to learn just specifically about The Luring, they can just go to THELURING, theluring.com. And they can read more about it there. We try to post stuff on our social media and all that kind of stuff, like our Facebook page and whatever. But kpictures.com is probably the best or easiest place to go to learn more about my other projects. Because, like I said, I am working on some other stuff, and right now I'm concentrating on The Luring. But I do have other projects that I definitely want to do, And when you get that itch, you got to scratch it. So hopefully
Ain't that
I'll be
true?
doing something soon.
Nice. Well, once again, Chris,
Yeah.
thank you so much. And for those listening, good job. And if you haven't killed an animal, we are proud of you, because if you have, Christopher and I are going to bust open your door and you're going to wish we hadn't. All right. And on that note,
Thank you.
you're welcome. And everybody, thank you for listening. And then don't forget, just lock your door, sit tight, and burn that fire log, because you just never know what is going to be happening within the woods. And until next time, don't get lured. Stay scared.
Nice.